Think you need a big backyard to grow fruit trees? That's one of the biggest misconceptions in home gardening. The truth is, you can harvest homegrown fruit from a small patio, balcony, or sunny deck corner. After 3 decades of growing fruit in tight spaces, I'm sharing 25 compact trees that thrive in containers and tolerate shade. Stay tuned for number 21, a persimmon that actually stays small, plus a bonus tip that can double your harvest. The first fruit tree on our list is the Dwarf Meyer lemon, and it's here for good reason. This compact citrus is one of the most reliable producers you can grow in a container. The variety you want is the improved Meyer lemon, which was developed to resist disease while keeping all the sweet, fragrant qualities that made the original so popular. It thrives in USDA zones 8 through 11 and stays small enough to fit comfortably on a patio or even a large balcony. What makes the Dwarf Meyer lemon exceptional is its willingness to fruit in partial shade. Most citrus trees demand full sun, but this one adapts beautifully to filtered light, or a spot that only gets 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight. The lemons themselves are sweeter and less acidic than grocery store varieties, making them perfect for cooking, baking, or squeezing into a glass of water. In a 15 to 20 gallon container with well-draining potting mix, you can expect fruit within the first year or two. Just bring it indoors when temperatures drop below freezing, and you'll have fresh lemons for years to come. The second fruit tree worth considering is the dwarf fig, specifically the Petite negra variety. Figs have been grown in containers for centuries, and this cultivar takes that tradition to the next level with its naturally compact growth habit. Hardy in USDA zones 7 through 11, the Petite negra stays manageable even without aggressive pruning, making it ideal for gardeners who want fruit without constant maintenance. What sets this fig apart is how well it performs in partial shade. While most fruit trees sulk without full sun, the Petite negra continues producing its dark, honey-sweet figs, even in spots that only receive 4 hours of direct light. The fruit is smaller than what you'd find on a full-size tree, but the flavor is concentrated and rich. Plant it in a container at least 15 gallons in size, using a quality potting mix that drains freely. Figs prefer to dry out slightly between waterings, so avoid the temptation to keep the soil constantly moist. Feed it monthly during the growing season with a balanced fertilizer, and you'll be rewarded with 2 harvests each year in warmer zones. For cooler areas, a single late summer crop is still plenty to look forward to. The third compact fruit tree on this list is the dwarf mulberry, and the dwarf everbearing variety is the one you want. Mulberries are often overlooked because standard trees grow enormous, but this cultivar stays naturally small, typically reaching just 6 to 8 feet even, when planted in the ground. In a container, it remains even more compact, making it perfect for patios, decks, and small urban gardens. One of the best things about the dwarf everbearing mulberry is its shade tolerance. This tree produces abundant fruit even when it only receives partial sunlight, which is rare among fruit-bearing trees. The berries look similar to elongated blackberries and taste wonderfully sweet with a slight tartness. They ripen over an extended period from late spring through summer, giving you weeks of fresh picking rather than one overwhelming harvest. Hardy in USDA zones 5 through 10, this mulberry handles cold winters better than most fruit trees on this list. Grow it in a container at least 20 gallons in size, and use a potting mix that holds moisture without becoming waterlogged. Mulberries are light feeders, so a slow-release fertilizer applied once in spring is usually all they need to produce heavily. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps this video reach more gardeners like yourself who would also find this information helpful. All right, let's continue. The fourth fruit tree we need to talk about is the dwarf pomegranate, and the Nana variety is a true miniature that belongs on every small space gardener's radar. Unlike standard pomegranates that can reach 15 feet or more, the Nana tops out at just 2 to 3 feet tall, making it one of the most compact fruiting trees you can grow. It's hardy in USDA zones 7 through 11 and adapts remarkably well to container life. What makes this little tree so appealing is its ornamental value combined with actual fruit production. The bright orange-red flowers appear throughout summer, followed by small pomegranates that ripen in fall. The fruit is smaller than what you'd buy at the store, but it's edible and surprisingly flavorful. Even if you never harvest a single pomegranate, the flowers alone make this tree worth growing. The Nana tolerates partial shade better than most pomegranate varieties, though it will flower and fruit more heavily with at least 5 hours of direct sunlight. Grow it in a container as small as 5 gallons for a tabletop specimen, or size up to 10 gallons for more fruit production. Use a well-draining potting mix and allow the soil to dry slightly between waterings. This tree is drought-tolerant once established, making it forgiving for gardeners who occasionally forget to water. The 5th compact fruit tree on our list is the dwarf peach, and the Bonanza variety has earned its reputation as one of the best genetic dwarfs available. This tree stays naturally small without requiring a dwarfing rootstock, typically reaching just 4 to 6 feet tall. It's hardy in USDA zones 5 through 9, giving gardeners across much of the country a chance to grow fresh peaches at home. The Bonanza produces full-sized freestone peaches with yellow flesh and excellent flavor. You'll harvest fruit in midsummer, and because the tree is self-fertile, you only need one to get a crop. This makes it perfect for gardeners with limited space who can't fit multiple trees on their patio. While peaches generally prefer full sun, the Bonanza shows reasonable tolerance for partial shade, especially in hotter climates where afternoon shade can actually prevent fruit from scorching. Plant it in a container at least 15 gallons in size, using a potting mix designed for fruit trees, or a blend that drains well while retaining some moisture. Peaches need consistent watering during fruit development, so check the soil regularly during summer. Feed with a balanced fertilizer in early spring and again after harvest. In colder zones, the tree needs adequate winter chill hours to set fruit, so avoid bringing it into a heated space during dormancy. The 6th fruit tree that deserves attention is the dwarf apple, specifically the urban columnar series. These apples grow in a narrow, upright form that takes up almost no horizontal space, making them ideal for tight corners, narrow balconies, and small patios, where a traditional apple tree simply wouldn't fit. Hardy in USDA zones 4 through 9, columnar apples handle cold winters without complaint and produce surprisingly well for their size. The urban columnar series includes several varieties with different apple types, from sweet to tart, so you can choose based on your taste preferences. The trees typically reach 6 to 8 feet tall, but stay only about 2 feet wide, growing almost like a fruiting pillar. Most apple varieties need a pollination partner, so plan on growing 2 different columnar varieties if space allows, or look for a self-fertile option. These trees tolerate partial shade, though fruit production increases with more sunlight. A minimum of 4 to 6 hours of direct sun is ideal. Grow columnar apples in containers at least 20 gallons in size, and use a quality potting mix that holds moisture without staying soggy. They need regular watering during the growing season and benefit from a balanced fertilizer applied in spring. Thin the fruit when apples are marble-sized to encourage larger, better quality harvests. The 7th container, friendly fruit tree, is the dwarf pear, and grafted mini-dwarf varieties offer the best results for small space growers. These trees combine a compact rootstock with proven pear varieties, keeping the overall size manageable while still producing full-flavored fruit. Hardy in USDA zones 5 through 9, dwarf pears bring the taste of homegrown pears to patios and decks where standard trees would never fit. What makes grafted mini dwarf pears appealing for container growing is their moderate sun requirements. While they appreciate full sun, they perform reasonably well with just 5 to 6 hours of direct light, making them suitable for spots that receive some afternoon shade. The fruit develops more slowly in partial shade, but the flavor remains excellent. European pear varieties like Bartlett and Anjou are commonly available on mini dwarf rootstock. Most pears need a second variety for cross-pollination, so consider growing 2 different types or choose an Asian pear, which is often self-fertile. Plant in a container at least 15 to 20 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix. Pears prefer consistent moisture during fruit development, so don't let the container dry out completely in summer. Feed with a balanced fertilizer in early spring and mulch the soil surface to help retain moisture. The 8th fruit tree perfect for limited spaces is the dwarf cherry, and the Carmine Jewel variety stands out as one of the best sour cherries for containers. This naturally compact tree reaches only 6 to 8 feet tall and produces an impressive amount of fruit for its size. Hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8, the Carmine Jewel handles cold winters exceptionally well, making it a great choice for northern gardeners who thought cherries were out of reach. Sour cherries like the Carmine Jewel are self-fertile, which means you need only one tree to get a crop. This is a significant advantage for container gardeners who don't have room for multiple trees. The cherries themselves are deep red, almost black when fully ripe, and have a rich, tart flavor perfect for pies, jams, and preserves. They're also delicious fresh if you enjoy the tangy taste of sour cherries. This variety tolerates partial shade better than sweet cherries, though it produces best with at least 6 hours of sunlight. Grow it in a container at least 20 gallons in size and use a potting mix that drains freely. Cherries dislike wet feet, so avoid overwatering. Feed lightly in spring with a balanced fertilizer and watch for birds as the fruit ripens because they love cherries as much as we do. The 9th fruit tree on this list is the dwarf plum, and the Sprite mini plum variety offers exceptional flavor in a compact package. This genetic dwarf stays naturally small, reaching just 5 to 6 feet tall without heavy pruning. Hardy in USDA zones 5 through 9, the Sprite adapts well to container growing and produces sweet, juicy plums that rival anything you'd find at a farmer's market. What makes this variety special is its ability to perform in less than ideal light conditions. Most stone fruits demand full sun, but the Sprite tolerates partial shade and still sets a reasonable crop. The plums are small to medium-sized with reddish skin and sweet yellow flesh. They ripen in midsummer and taste best when allowed to fully mature on the tree. This variety is self-fertile, so a single tree will produce fruit without a pollination partner. Grow the Sprite in a container at least 15 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix. Stone fruits prefer consistent moisture during fruit development, but dislike waterlogged soil, so finding the right balance is important. Feed with a balanced fertilizer in early spring, before new growth begins. In colder zones, the tree needs winter chill hours to set fruit properly, so leave it outdoors during dormancy rather than moving it to a heated garage or sunroom. The 10th compact fruit tree we need to discuss is the dwarf nectarine, specifically the Nectarella mini variety. Nectarines are essentially fuzzless peaches, and this genetic dwarf brings that smooth-skinned, sweet fruit to container gardeners who lack space for a standard tree. Hardy in USDA zones 6 through 9, the Nectarella stays compact at around 4 to 5 feet tall, making it manageable for patios, decks, and even large balconies with adequate sunlight. This variety shows good tolerance for partial shade, which is unusual among stone fruits. While it produces best with 6 or more hours of direct sun, it will still set fruit in spots that receive some afternoon shade. The nectarines are full-size despite the tree's compact stature, with yellow flesh and a classic sweet flavor. They ripen in mid to late summer and are self-fertile, so you only need one tree. Plant the Nectarella in a container at least 15 gallons in size. Use a potting mix that drains well, but retains enough moisture to keep roots hydrated during hot weather. Nectarines need regular watering when fruit is developing, so check containers frequently during summer dry spells. Apply a balanced fertilizer in early spring and again lightly after harvest to support next year's fruit buds. The 11th fruit tree suited for small spaces is the dwarf avocado, and the Wirtz variety, often sold as Little Caddo, is the most compact option available. Standard avocado trees can reach 30 feet or taller, which is impractical for most home gardeners, but the Wirtz stays manageable at 8 to 10 feet in the ground, and even smaller in containers. It's hardy in USDA zones 9 through 11, limiting it to warm climates, though container growing allows gardeners in cooler areas to bring it indoors during winter. What sets the Wirtz apart is its ability to produce fruit in partial shade. Most avocados demand full sun, but this variety tolerates filtered light and still sets a crop. The avocados are medium-sized with green skin and creamy, rich flesh. The tree is self-fertile, though having a second variety nearby can increase yields. Expect your first fruit within 2 to 3 years when growing from a grafted nursery tree. Plant in a container at least 20 gallons in size, and use a fast-draining potting mix because avocados are extremely sensitive to root rot. Water deeply but infrequently, allowing the top few inches of soil to dry between waterings. Feed with a fertilizer formulated for citrus and avocados, applying it monthly during the growing season. The 12th fruit tree that thrives in containers is the Calamondin orange, and the standard Calamondin is the variety most commonly available. This small citrus tree is one of the easiest to grow indoors and out, making it perfect for gardeners who want homegrown citrus without the fuss of more demanding varieties. Hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11 outdoors, the Calamondin also performs beautifully as a houseplant in colder regions, fruiting year-round under the right conditions. The Calamondin produces small, round oranges that look like miniature mandarins. The fruit is sour rather than sweet, making it ideal for marmalades, beverages, and cooking rather than eating fresh. The tree blooms multiple times throughout the year, filling your space with fragrant white flowers before each flush of fruit. One of the best qualities of this tree is its tolerance for indirect sun. While it appreciates bright light, it produces reliably, even in spots that receive filtered sunlight or just a few hours of direct sun. Grow it in a container at least 10 to 15 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix formulated for citrus. Water when the top inch of soil feels dry, and feed monthly with citrus fertilizer during spring and summer. Watch for scale insects and spider mites, especially when growing indoors. The 13th container-friendly fruit tree is the kumquat, and the Mewa variety offers the sweetest fruit of all kumquat types. Unlike most citrus, kumquats are eaten whole, skin and all, and the Mewa has a sweeter, less acidic flavor than other varieties. This makes it perfect for snacking straight from the tree. Hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11, kumquats are among the most cold-tolerant citrus trees, handling temperatures down to the low 20s without significant damage. Kumquats naturally stay compact, typically reaching 6 to 8 feet tall, and they adapt exceptionally well to container culture. The Mewa is self-fertile, so a single tree produces abundant fruit without a pollinator. What makes kumquats particularly valuable for small space gardeners is their tolerance for light shade. While they fruit most heavily in full sun, they still produce well in spots that receive only 4 to 6 hours of direct light. Grow your Mewa in a container at least 15 gallons in size, using a citrus-specific potting mix or any blend that drains freely. Water deeply when the top inch of soil dries out, and feed with citrus fertilizer monthly during the growing season. Kumquats fruit in winter, providing fresh citrus when little else is producing. The 14th fruit tree perfect for patios and small gardens is the dwarf banana, and the Dwarf Cavendish variety brings tropical flavor to spaces where a full-size banana plant would never fit. This compact banana typically reaches 6 to 8 feet tall, which sounds large but is actually quite manageable compared to standard bananas that can top 20 feet. Hardy in USDA zones 9 through 11, the Dwarf Cavendish can also be grown in cooler areas if brought indoors before frost arrives. What surprises many gardeners is how well this banana tolerates partial shade. While it grows fastest in full sun, it still produces fruit in spots that receive just 4 to 5 hours of direct light. The bananas are the same sweet, creamy fruit you'd find at the grocery store, and a single plant can produce a sizable bunch once mature. Expect your first harvest about 18 months after planting a nursery start. Grow the Dwarf Cavendish in a container at least 15 to 20 gallons in size, using a rich potting mix that retains moisture. Bananas are heavy feeders and drinkers, requiring frequent watering and monthly fertilization during the growing season. Protect the large leaves from strong winds, which can shred them and slow the plant's growth. The 15th compact fruit producer on our list is the dwarf blueberry, and the top hat variety is arguably the best choice for container growing. This tiny bush stays just 18 to 24 inches tall, making it small enough to grow on a tabletop, windowsill, or apartment balcony. Despite its diminutive size, the top hat produces a surprising amount of full-sized, flavorful blueberries. Hardy in USDA zones 4 through 9, this variety handles cold winters without protection and tolerates summer heat in most regions. Blueberries prefer acidic soil, which makes container growing actually easier than planting in the ground for many gardeners. You can control the soil pH precisely by using a potting mix formulated for acid-loving plants like azaleas and rhododendrons. The top hat is self-fertile but produces larger harvests when planted near another blueberry variety. So consider growing 2 different types if space allows. This variety tolerates partial shade and produces reasonably well with just 4 to 6 hours of sunlight. Grow it in a container at least 5 gallons in size, and water with rainwater when possible since tap water can raise soil pH over time. Feed with a fertilizer designed for acid-loving plants, applying it in early spring and again after harvest. The 16th fruit tree suited for containers is the dwarf olive, and the little olive variety offers all the Mediterranean charm of a full-sized olive in a fraction of the space. This compact cultivar typically stays under 8 feet tall and can be kept even smaller with light pruning. Hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11, the little olive brings an elegant, silvery presence to patios, courtyards, and sunny balconies while producing small but usable olives. Olive trees are famously drought-tolerant once established, making them forgiving for gardeners who travel or occasionally forget to water. The little olive handles partial shade better than many olive varieties, though it produces most heavily with 6 or more hours of direct sunlight. The olives themselves are small and need curing before eating, but the process is straightforward and the results are far superior to store-bought varieties. This tree is partially self-fertile, but produces better crops when another olive variety is nearby. Grow the little olive in a container at least 15 gallons in size, using a fast-draining potting mix. Olives despise wet feet, so ensure your container has adequate drainage holes and never let it sit in a saucer of water. Feed lightly with a balanced fertilizer once in spring and again in midsummer. The 17th container-friendly citrus tree is the dwarf grapefruit, and the Rio Red Dwarf variety brings the tangy sweetness of homegrown grapefruit to small space gardeners. Standard grapefruit trees grow far too large for most patios, but this dwarf variety stays compact enough to manage in a 20-gallon container while still producing full-size fruit. Hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11, the Rio Red needs warmth to thrive and should be brought indoors when temperatures drop below freezing. The Rio Red produces deep pink flesh with excellent sweetness balanced by the classic grapefruit tang. The fruit ripens over an extended period during winter and spring, giving you months of fresh picking. This variety is self-fertile, so a single tree provides all the grapefruit you'll need. What makes the Rio Red Dwarf work for limited spaces is its tolerance for filtered light. While grapefruit generally demands full sun, this variety produces adequately in spots that receive some afternoon shade or bright indirect light. Plant in a large container using citrus potting mix and water deeply when the top inch of soil feels dry. Grapefruit are heavy feeders, so apply citrus fertilizer monthly during the growing season. Expect your first fruit 2 to 3 years after planting a grafted nursery tree. The 18th fruit producer that deserves a spot on your patio is the goji berry, and the Crimson Star variety offers the best combination of compact growth and heavy fruiting. Goji berries have gained popularity for their nutritional benefits, but few gardeners realize how easy they are to grow at home. This deciduous shrub stays naturally compact, reaching just 3 to 5 feet tall in a container, and produces bright red berries packed with antioxidants. Hardy in USDA zones 5 through 9, the Crimson Star handles cold winters and hot summers with equal ease. One of the best features of the goji berry is its tolerance for partial shade. While it produces most heavily in full sun, it still yields a respectable harvest in spots that receive only 4 to 5 hours of direct light. The berries ripen over a long season from midsummer through fall, providing fresh picking for months. They can be eaten fresh, dried, or added to smoothies and baked goods. Grow the Crimson Star in a container at least 10 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix. Goji berries prefer slightly alkaline soil, so avoid mixes formulated for acid-loving plants. Water regularly during fruit development and feed monthly with a balanced fertilizer during the growing season. The 19th fruit tree ideal for limited spaces is the serviceberry, and the Regent variety offers one of the best combinations of compact size and abundant fruit. Serviceberries, also known by their botanical name Amelanchier, are native North American plants that produce sweet blueberry-like fruit in early summer. The Regent stays naturally small at just 4 to 6 feet tall, making it perfect for containers and small garden beds. Hardy in USDA zones 4 through 9. This tough plant handles cold winters, summer heat, and everything in between. What makes the serviceberry exceptional for small space gardeners is its tolerance for partial shade. Unlike most fruit trees that demand full sun, the Regent produces well in spots that receive just 3 to 4 hours of direct light. The berries ripen in June, earlier than most fruit, and taste sweet with a hint of almond flavor. Birds love them too, so you may need netting if you want to harvest the full crop. This variety is self-fertile but produces heavier yields with a second plant nearby. Grow the Regent in a container at least 15 gallons in size, using a standard potting mix. Serviceberries are not fussy about soil and tolerate a range of moisture levels. Feed once in spring with a balanced fertilizer and enjoy the bonus of beautiful white spring flowers before the fruit arrives. The 20th compact fruit tree on this list is the dwarf apricot, and the Garden Annie variety proves that stone fruit can thrive in containers. Apricots are often considered challenging because they bloom early and risk frost damage, but choosing the right variety makes all the difference. The Garden Annie is a true genetic dwarf that stays just 4 to 5 feet tall without aggressive pruning, making it manageable for patios and small yards. Hardy in USDA zones 5 through 9. This variety handles cold winters while producing sweet, aromatic apricots in early summer. The fruit has golden orange skin with juicy, flavorful flesh that tastes far better than anything shipped to grocery stores. Garden Annie is self-fertile, so you need only one tree to enjoy a harvest. While apricots generally prefer full sun, this variety shows reasonable tolerance for partial shade. particularly in hotter climates where afternoon shade prevents sun scald. Plant in a container at least 15 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix. Apricots dislike wet roots, so avoid overwatering and ensure your container drains freely. Feed with a balanced fertilizer in early spring before bloom, and protect flowers from late frosts with a light cloth covering if cold weather threatens after buds open. The 21st fruit tree worth growing in containers is the dwarf persimmon, and the Izu variety solves the biggest problem gardeners face with this fruit. Standard persimmon trees grow large, often reaching 25 feet or more, which puts them out of reach for small space gardeners. The Izu stays compact at just 8 to 10 feet in the ground and even smaller when container grown, making it one of the few persimmons practical for patios and decks. Hardy in USDA zones 6 through 10, this variety produces sweet, non-astringent fruit that can be eaten while still firm. Non-astringent. Persimmons are important because astringent types taste unbearably bitter until completely soft, which many gardeners find disappointing. The Izu ripens in fall and produces medium-sized, flattened orange fruit with sweet, mild flesh. This variety is self-fertile, requiring no pollination partner for a crop. Persimmons tolerate partial shade better than most fruit trees and actually perform well in spots that receive just 4 to 5 hours of direct sunlight. Grow the Izu in a container at least 20 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix. Water consistently during fruit development and feed with a balanced fertilizer in spring. The tree drops its leaves in winter, revealing attractive branching structure that adds interest even during dormancy. The 22nd fruit tree suited for containers is the dwarf loquat, and the golden nugget variety brings a taste of the subtropics to small gardens and patios. Loquats are evergreen trees with large, attractive leaves that provide year-round interest even when not fruiting. The golden nugget stays compact enough for container growing, typically reaching 6 to 8 feet in a pot, and produces sweet, tangy fruit in late winter to early spring when little else is available fresh. Hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11, loquats need mild winters to fruit reliably, but tolerate brief cold snaps without damage. The fruit grows in clusters and has orange skin with juicy, aromatic flesh that tastes like a blend of apricot, peach, and citrus. Each fruit contains a few large seeds that are easy to remove. What makes the golden nugget valuable for container gardeners is its adaptation to filtered light. While it fruits best in full sun, it produces adequately in partial shade and makes an attractive houseplant in bright indoor spaces during winter. This variety is self-fertile, so a single tree provides fruit without a pollinator. Grow it in a container at least 15 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix. Loquats prefer consistent moisture and benefit from monthly feeding during the growing season. The 23rd fruit tree that thrives in containers is the feijoa, commonly called pineapple guava, and the Coolidge variety is the best choice for gardeners who want fruit from a single tree. Feijoas are evergreen shrubs with silvery green leaves and stunning red flowers that are themselves edible. The fruit tastes like a combination of pineapple, guava, and mint, making it one of the most uniquely flavored options on this list. Hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11, the Coolidge handles light frosts and thrives in coastal climates where summers stay mild. This variety grows as a compact shrub, typically reaching 6 to 8 feet tall, and responds well to pruning if you need to keep it smaller. Most feijoas require cross-pollination to produce fruit, but the Coolidge is self-fertile, setting reliable crops without a partner plant. Feijoas tolerate partial shade remarkably well, producing fruit in spots that receive just 4 to 5 hours of direct sunlight. The fruit ripens in fall and drops from the tree when ready, making harvest simple. Grow the Coolidge in a container at least 15 to 20 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix. Water regularly during fruit development and feed monthly with a balanced fertilizer during spring and summer. The 24th fruit tree on our list is the dwarf pawpaw, and the sunflower variety brings a truly unique flavor to container gardening. Pawpaws are native North American fruit trees that produce large, tropical-tasting fruit often described as a blend of banana, mango, and custard. Most pawpaw trees grow too large for containers, but the sunflower stays more compact and adapts reasonably well to pot culture when given enough root space. Hardy in USDA zones 5 through 9, this variety handles cold winters without protection and actually requires winter chill to produce fruit. What makes the pawpaw exceptional is its natural shade tolerance. In the wild, pawpaws grow as understory trees beneath larger forest canopy, so they thrive in partial shade where other fruit trees would struggle. The sunflower is one of the few pawpaw varieties that can self-pollinate, though having a second tree improves yield significantly. The fruit ripens in fall and must be eaten fresh because it doesn't store or ship well, which is why you'll never find pawpaws in grocery stores. Grow the sunflower in a container at least 25 gallons in size, as pawpaws develop extensive root systems. Use a rich, moisture-retentive potting mix and water consistently because pawpaws dislike drought. Feed monthly during the growing season with a balanced fertilizer. The 25th and final fruit tree on this list is the dwarf jujube, and the honey jar variety offers one of the sweetest, most unusual fruits you can grow at home. Jujubes, sometimes called Chinese dates, produce small, apple-like fruit that tastes remarkably sweet when fully ripe. The honey jar is among the most compact varieties, staying manageable at 8 to 10 feet in the ground and smaller in containers. Hardy in USDA zones 6 through 10, jujubes handle heat, drought, and poor soil better than almost any other fruit tree, making them incredibly forgiving for busy gardeners. The fruit starts green and crunchy, similar to an apple, then turns reddish-brown and develops a date-like sweetness and texture as it dries on the tree. You can eat jujubes at any stage depending on your preference. This variety is self-fertile, producing crops without a pollination partner. Jujubes tolerate partial shade reasonably well, though they fruit most heavily with 6 or more hours of direct sunlight. Grow the honey jar in a container at least 15 to 20 gallons in size, using a well-draining potting mix. Water sparingly once established because jujubes are extremely drought-tolerant. Feed lightly in spring with a balanced fertilizer, and watch for the small thorns on younger branches when pruning. And now for the bonus tip that serious fruit gardeners swear by. If you want to dramatically increase fruit production on your container trees, try root pruning every 2 to 3 years. When a tree becomes root-bound, it often stops producing as heavily because all its energy goes toward maintaining the cramped root system rather than making fruit. To root prune, remove the tree from its container in late winter while dormant. Shave off about 2 inches of roots from the sides and bottom of the root ball, then repot with fresh potting mix in the same container. This stimulates new feeder root growth and tricks the tree into thinking it has been transplanted to fresh ground. The result is often a dramatic increase in flowering and fruiting the following season. Root pruning also keeps trees healthier long-term by preventing the circling roots that eventually strangle container plants. Combine this technique with annual fertilization and proper watering, and your dwarf fruit trees will produce abundantly for decades in the same containers. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.